the human hero's unexpected reward. The sky over the alien city of Varel burned orange with twin suns. Smoke still rose from broken buildings. Alien citizens walked in silence, trying to rebuild after the pirate invasion. But one name was on every tongue: Jace Walker, the human who saved them all. Jace stood outside the royal palace, still wearing his dusty armor. His arms ached and his leg was injured, but he didn't complain. He had fought hard side by side with alien soldiers to stop the pirate horde from burning the city to ashes. Now the royal guard stood before him with glowing spears, their armor shining in the sun. One of them, a tall alien with green-blue skin and sharp eyes, spoke in a deep voice. "The Queen calls you, human. You are to receive your reward." Jace nodded, hiding his confusion. Reward? He didn't fight for reward. He fought because it was right. The guards led him into the massive palace halls, walls made of black crystal, floors shining like mirrors. Alien nobles stood on both sides, whispering in their strange tongue as he passed. Some looked curious, others angry. Then he entered the throne hall. At the end of the hall, on a high seat of glowing light, sat Queen Saravel. She was tall and cold-looking, with a face that showed no emotion. Her golden robe flowed like water, and her six-fingered hands rested on the throne arms. She stood up and raised one hand. "Human," she said, her voice echoing, "your courage and strength saved our city. You destroyed the pirate leader. You protected our young and our old. You are now one of us." Jace bowed his head slightly. "I only did what anyone would have done," he replied. The Queen smiled slightly. "Still, your actions deserve a gift. Bring the offering." The side doors opened. Two guards walked in, pulling a chain. At the other end of the chain was a woman. She was young, maybe 20 in human years. Her skin was soft purple with faint glowing patterns. Her long white hair fell around her face like silk. Her hands were bound in front, and her eyes stared at the ground. She wore a tight silver cloth around her body, clearly a servant's uniform. She didn't speak, didn't cry, didn't fight. She simply walked forward, silent and empty. "Her name is Lyra," the Queen said. "She is yours, now. A personal slave. Your reward." The entire hall grew silent. Everyone waited for Jace to smile, bow, or thank the Queen. They expected him to take the chain, to accept the gift like any warrior would. But Jace didn't move. He stared at the girl, at her quiet face, her tired eyes, the faint marks on her wrists from old chains. Slowly, he walked forward, not to grab the chain, but to kneel beside her. He looked into her eyes. She flinched, expecting a slap or command. But instead, Jace gently reached out and broke the lock on her chains with a quick snap of his metal glove. The chains fell to the floor with a heavy clang. Gasps filled the hall. Nobles murmured. The guard stiffened. The Queen's eyes narrowed. "What are you doing, human?" she asked coldly. Jace stood up straight and looked around the room. "I don't want a slave," he said clearly. "I didn't fight for this." He turned back to Lyra and held out his hand. "You're free." Lyra didn't move. Her lips trembled, her eyes filled with confusion. "I don't understand," she whispered. Jace smiled kindly. "You don't have to. Not now. Just know, you're not mine. You belong to yourself." Behind him, the nobles began to argue. Some were angry. Some looked afraid. The Queen raised her hand again, and silence fell. "This has never happened before," she said. "You reject a royal gift?" Jace nodded. "Yes, because freedom is the only reward I need." For a moment, no one spoke. Then Lyra slowly reached out and touched his hand. It was the first choice she had made in years, and everything began to change. The palace halls were quiet as the sun set. Lyra sat alone in the guest chamber they had given her. A soft bed stood nearby, untouched. Instead, she knelt on the cold floor with her hands folded in her lap. She didn't know why. Her chains were gone. The human had broken them. No master had hit her or shouted today. She was free, or so he said. But she didn't understand what free was supposed to feel like. Jace sat a few feet away, resting in a chair. He had taken off his chest armor and was wrapping a cloth around his wounded leg. The silence between them felt heavy. He looked at her and spoke gently. "You don't have to sit like that, you can relax." Lyra blinked. Her body stiffened more. "Is this not how you want me to sit?" she asked carefully. Jace sighed, not angry, just sad. "No. I don't want you to sit anyway. You decide for yourself." Lyra didn't answer. She slowly turned her eyes toward the floor again. For her entire life, others had told her how to move, how to speak, how to serve. Her value was based on obedience. Now this strange human was asking her to choose. It felt like standing at the edge of a cliff with no ground below. Later that night, Jace walked into the room with food. Simple stew and bread. He handed her a bowl. "Eat." She looked at the bowl, then at him. "Should I taste it first to make sure it's safe for you?" He shook his head. "No. I made it for you." She hesitated, then took the first bite. Her eyes widened a little. It was warm and full of flavor. She hadn't eaten fresh food in days. Still, she ate slowly, carefully, as if someone might take it away. That night, Jace rolled out a sleeping mat near the doorway. He didn't take the bed either. Lyra watched him from the corner of the room. "You don't trust me," she whispered. Jace turned to her. "It's not that. I just want you to feel safe. You've been through a lot." Lyra said nothing. But deep inside, her heart ached with questions. Who was this man? Why was he so different? Why hadn't he taken her? The next day, Jace showed her the palace garden. Bright alien flowers bloomed in every color. Birds with crystal wings flew overhead. "You can walk anywhere you want here," he said. "Anywhere?" she asked. "Yes. You don't need permission." She stepped forward. Slowly, unsure, she touched a flower petal with shaky fingers, half expecting it to hurt her. But it was soft and warm. She touched another, then another. Suddenly, she looked up at him. "Is this really allowed?" Jace smiled. "Everything you see now is yours, not because it's given, but because you can choose." She turned away. Her face trembled, and then without warning, tears fell from her eyes. "Why are you doing this?" she asked through sobs. "What do you want from me?" Jace walked closer but stayed at a respectful distance. "Nothing. I just believe you deserve more than what they gave you." She had never cried like this before, not even when she was first taken as a child. Now the walls inside her were beginning to crack. That night, something changed. Lyra walked over to the bed and lay down. She didn't ask if she could. She didn't seek permission. She simply chose. Jace watched from his corner. He didn't say a word, but a smile touched his lips. For the first time in her life, Lyra slept peacefully. But outside the palace walls, trouble was growing. News of the freed slave had spread across the city. Whispers in the shadows spoke of dishonor, rebellion, and a human who had broken tradition, and not everyone wanted things to change. The sun hadn't yet risen. In the cold stillness before dawn, a message was delivered to Jace's guest room. No knock, no warning. Just a tiny silver cube on the floor. Its surface shimmered faintly. Jace picked it up. The cube lit up in his palm and whispered a voice directly into his ear. "You embarrassed the queen. You broke sacred laws. Leave the city quietly, or never leave at all." The cube burned black and crumbled into dust. Jace didn't panic. Instead, he looked over at Lyra, who was still sleeping peacefully on the bed. Her hair glowed faintly in the dim light. She looked peaceful, almost like a normal girl, not a servant, not a slave. But Jace knew peace wouldn't last. Someone wanted her gone. or worse, dead. Later that morning, Lyra woke up smiling softly. It was a small smile, but real. She was beginning to feel different. Like maybe she wasn't worthless. Like maybe the human truly meant what he said. She sat up and noticed Jace was sitting by the window, armor half on, weapon checked. His face was serious. "What's wrong?" she asked. "Nothing," he said. "Just thinking." But the truth was spinning in his mind like a storm. He wasn't just dealing with a broken tradition. He was facing a system built over generations. A world where Lyra was supposed to be silent, owned, and controlled. And now, she was free. That made her dangerous. By midday, rumors spread across the capital. The human rejected his slave. She's walking freely, even speaking. Other slaves saw her and started asking questions. The noble class felt shaken. Their grip on power relied on silence. But Lyra had spoken. And worse, others had listened. That afternoon, a group of nobles met in secret. Inside a dark stone chamber beneath the palace, they lit red torches and spoke in harsh whispers. "He must be removed before this sickness spreads. We can't kill a human hero. The people still admire him. Then target her. Make it look like an accident." A silent vote was cast. Lyra's name was marked. That night, Jace couldn't sleep. He felt the pressure growing, so he made a plan. "Lyra," he said, "we're leaving tomorrow. We'll go somewhere quiet. Safe." Lyra frowned. "Is it because of me?" Jace looked her in the eyes. "No, it's because of them. You don't deserve to be hunted for being free." She paused, then gave a small nod. "I'll follow you." But the choice was hers, and that made all the difference. As the two packed their things, a shadow moved on the roof above them. A figure in a black cloak adjusted a long, glowing blade. They were not alone. Hours before sunrise, Jace woke up suddenly. The room was cold. Too quiet. He looked over. Lyra was gone. On the bed was a single word, burned lightly into the blanket with a laser pen. "Sorry." Jace's heart pounded. He ran outside. The guards didn't see her leave. The cameras were turned off. He knew what had happened. She left on her own, to protect him. Out in the lower city, under the metal skywalks and neon fog, Lyra moved quickly, through alleyways. She knew they were coming for her. She had heard the whispers in the palace. She had seen the fear in the servant girl's eyes. She knew if she stayed with Jace, they'd kill him too. So she ran. Not as a slave, but as someone who chose to be brave. But the assassins were close behind, and they weren't interested in kindness, only silence. The alien city of Varel looked peaceful from above, but deep beneath its shining towers, in the forgotten tunnels and rusted transport routes, Lyra ran for her life. Her bare feet splashed through puddles. Broken lights flickered overhead. Each shadow felt like a threat. Every corner could hide a hunter. She clutched a small cloth around her shoulders, not to stay warm, but to hide the glowing marks on her skin. Her alien patterns could give her away in the dark. She didn't know where she was going. Only that if she stayed, Jace would die. Back in the palace, Jace was already moving. He stormed into the guard chamber and threw the burnt message cube on the table. "She's missing," and someone turned off the cameras. This was no accident. The alien captain hesitated, then looked away. "Orders from above," he muttered. "You were warned." "Then I'm done waiting," Jace growled. He grabbed his plasma rifle, locked on his leg armor, and stormed out into the neon-lit night. He had no map, no orders, just one goal: find Lyra, before they do. In the dark maze of tunnels, Lyra finally stopped to breathe. Her hands shook. Her knees burned. But she kept moving. Memories haunted her. Memories of other runaways, girls who tried to flee and were never seen again. She remembered the stories, the screams. "They won't let me live," she whispered. Suddenly, a soft, Metallic sound echoed behind her. She froze. Footsteps, slow, heavy. She turned and ran again, but pain shot through her ankle. She had twisted it earlier, and now it was swelling. She limped into a broken storage room, hiding behind old crates. Her breath came in quick gasps. She tried to stay silent. Then, a whisper. There she is. Two cloaked hunters entered the room. Their eyes glowed red. Their knives hummed with blue plasma. One stepped forward, scanning with a tracker. She's near. Don't kill her right away. Pain makes a better message. Lyra's heart pounded in her chest. She closed her eyes. This is it. But suddenly, a blast shook the room. One hunter was slammed against the wall by a blue energy shot. The other spun around, blade raised. You picked the wrong girl. A voice growled, Jace. He crashed into the second assassin with a punch that cracked bone. Plasma blade met armored glove. Sparks flew. Lyra watched from behind the crates, eyes wide. The man who freed her had now come back for her. The fight was brutal. One assassin stabbed Jace in the side, but he grabbed the blade and twisted it out with a roar. Blood stained his shirt, but he didn't stop. The other tried to crawl away, but Lyra, for the first time, picked up a broken metal pipe and stood in his path. Stay down, she said, voice shaking but strong. The man froze. He had never heard a slave speak like that. Jace limped over and helped her stand. Are you okay? Lyra nodded, tears in her eyes. Why did you come for me? I left to protect you. Jace looked at her, eyes full of fire. You don't walk alone anymore. He lifted her gently, ignoring the pain in his ribs. They escaped through the steam vents, smoke covering their trail. Back in the royal palace, news of the failed mission spread quickly. Some were angry, others frightened, and one noble whispered to the queen, "This human is changing everything." But it was too late to stop the change, because for the first time, a slave had been hunted, and someone came back to fight for her, and the galaxy was watching. The stars above Varel were still glowing when Lyra stood in front of the palace gates. Her ankle still hurt. Her arms were trembling. But her eyes, those soft, glowing eyes, were filled with something new. Not fear, not confusion, but purpose. Behind her, Jace stood with his side bandaged and plasma rifle slung across his shoulder. He didn't say a word. He didn't need to. This time it was her choice. The guards looked down at them from the high wall. One shouted, "You should have stayed hidden, girl. You were given. You were owned. You were nothing." Lyra took one. Step forward. Her voice was soft, but it echoed like thunder in the quiet air. I was never nothing. You just never saw me. The gates opened slowly, metal groaning. Inside, the queen waited, seated on her high throne. The nobles stood in rows, watching with cold eyes. News of the failed hunt had already reached them. Now they wanted answers, maybe even revenge. Lyra walked into the royal hall beside Jace, but when they reached the center, she surprised him. She stepped forward alone. He reached out, but she held up her hand. "Let me," she whispered, and, for the first time the girl once called a gift, spoke for herself. "I am Lyra," she said loudly, voice clear. "And I am not a slave." The room froze. A gasp moved through the nobles like a wave. One shouted from the side, "She dares speak in the throne room without permission." Another, "She was property. This is an insult to all tradition." But Lyra didn't flinch. "You gave me to a human as a reward. You expected him to use me like furniture, but he did something you didn't. He saw me." She turned toward Queen Saravel. "I am not here to beg. I am not here to hide. I am here to tell you. Your world is broken, but it can change." The queen's golden eyes narrowed. "And you think you can bring that change?" Lyra's voice shook but didn't fall. "Not alone. But maybe I'm not alone anymore." She looked back at Jace. He stepped beside her now. "We're not here for war," Jace said. We're here for truth, for freedom. You say your empire is wise, then prove it. A long silence followed. Then the queen stood. Her voice was cold but measured. What you ask for is dangerous. Our laws are old. Our people are afraid. Jace replied simply. Then your people are ready for something new. At the edge of the hall, something unexpected happened. One of the servant girls, a young alien, with pale green skin, stepped forward. She knelt beside Lyra. She's right, the girl said softly. I want to choose too. Then another. And another. Servants, guards, even one noble. They stood beside Lyra, not because they were ordered, but because they chose to. The queen slowly sat back down. Perhaps the human has brought more than just firepower to our world, she said. She looked at Lyra for a long time, then gave a single nod. Let her speak, let her be heard. From now on, she is no one's slave. The hall burst into noise, shouts, debates, anger, confusion, but none of it mattered to Lyra in that moment, because she had stood alone, and the world had listened. That night, Jace and Lyra sat beneath the stars, far from the palace. He looked at her with a tired smile. You were brave. She smiled back, eyes soft with emotion. I didn't feel brave. I just felt free. Jace nodded. That's the first step. And somewhere in the night sky above them, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter, because, for the first time, a girl who had been owned had owned her voice. The galaxy didn't sleep that night. News of the human and the freed slave spread faster than light. From mining moons to royal courts, people whispered. The girl spoke in front of the queen. The human changed her. Maybe they're not so different from us. But in the heart of Varel, while hope sparked across the stars, Jace Walker was put in chains. They came for him before dawn. He didn't resist. Lyra had gone to speak with the queen again. She came back to an empty room and a sealed message. The human is to stand trial for defiance of royal customs and inciting slave disobedience. Lyra's hands trembled, her eyes burned, but her voice stayed calm. Then I'll stand with him. The Grand Hall of Judgment was a massive circular chamber, floating high above the city in a sky tower. Clear glass walls showed the swirling clouds beyond. Hover cameras buzzed in the air. Billions across the galaxy were watching. Jace stood alone in the center, bound at the wrists. His face was bruised but proud. The alien nobles watched from curved rows, their faces unreadable, and at the highest seat, Queen Saravel sat in silence. You are charged with breaking tradition, insulting the throne, and igniting slave rebellion, a judge announced. Jace's voice was calm. I gave someone back her freedom. If that's a crime, maybe the law needs fixing. Gasps echoed. Some nobles stood. One shouted, He mocks us. He should be executed. But the queen raised her hand. All went silent. Let him speak. The room stilled. Even the camera stopped moving. Jace turned slowly, facing the entire chamber. When I came to your world, I didn't come to start a fight. I came to help. I risked my life for your people. I bled beside your soldiers. And you gave me a girl in chains as a prize. He paused. You expected me to smile, to take her like a thing. But I looked at her and I saw someone, not something. Some nobles turned their eyes away. That girl Lyra was never yours. She had a voice, she had a name, you just forgot to ask. From the crowd, Lyra stepped forward now, uninvited. The guards moved to stop her, but the queen raised her hand again. Let her pass. Lyra walked to Jace's side and took his hand. He didn't steal my voice. He gave it back. The queen finally spoke. You risked everything for her. Why? Jace looked at Lyra, then back at the queen. Because freedom is the only reward worth dying for. A heavy silence filled the air. Then, softly, clapping. One judge, then another, then half the room stood. It wasn't planned. It wasn't expected. But it was real. The Queen stood slowly. The laws of this world are old. Too old. Today we do. Not punish the human. She turned to Jace. Your chains are broken. Your name is honored. But more than that, you forced us to face a truth. She looked at Lyra. Perhaps she was the gift all along, and we simply gave her to the wrong person. The trial ended not with a sentence but with a shift, a crack in the old ways, a whisper of something new. And in that moment, the galaxy didn't just see a human and a freed slave. They saw change. Weeks passed. The city of Virel looked the same. But nothing was the same anymore. The towers still touched the clouds. The nobles still wore gold and silk. The markets still buzzed with alien voices. But under it all, something new had taken root: hope. In the central square, a giant display screen played a news report. A voice spoke in every language across the stars. For the first time in Virel's history, the Council has voted to end the ownership of living beings. A human outsider sparked what generations had feared to question. His actions and the voice of one brave woman changed the empire. Inside the palace, Queen Saravel stood before her advisors. We've ruled for centuries with silence and obedience, she said. But silence is not peace, and obedience is not justice. She held a new decree in her hands, signed and sealed. The Freedom Accord. A law that would set every slave in the empire free. Let it be done, the Queen said. Today we rewrite who we are. In a small village far from the capital, a family huddled together watching the news. Their daughter had been taken as a servant years ago. Now they wept in joy. She might come home, the father whispered. And he was right. At the same time, on a distant mining moon, a group of slaves dropped their tools. Guards tried to shout, but no one moved. Then from the sky, a message drone arrived. It spoke just 2 words. You're free. And the entire mine went still. Some cried, some cheered, but all of them felt human again. In the royal garden of Virel, Jace stood beneath a glowing tree. The leaves shimmered like crystal in the light. Lyra walked toward him dressed in a soft violet robe. Not a uniform, not a gift, just something she chose to wear. She looked stronger now, her eyes clearer, her smile real. You did it, she said. Jace shook his head. We did it. They stood in silence for a moment. Then she asked quietly, So on what happens now? Jace looked up at the sky. Now we build something better together. Later that day, a new ceremony took place in the same throne hall where Lyra once stood in chains. This time she stood beside the Queen, not below her. She read the first lines of the new law herself, her voice steady. No being shall be owned. No voice shall be silenced. And no child shall grow up believing they are less. Applause echoed through the chamber. Outside, crowds filled the streets, free people from every race, species, and color. They cheered not for war, but for change. That night, as twin moons rose over Virel, Jace and Lyra stood on a balcony, watching the lights below. Do you regret anything? She asked. He smiled softly. Only that I didn't meet you sooner. She blushed. Her eyes sparkled. You really mean that? Every word. Then, slowly, her hand found his. Not as property, not as reward, but as someone equal, someone free. And so, in a world that once bowed to power and silence, a human and a freed alien girl lit a fire of change. They didn't conquer planets. They didn't rule empires. They simply chose what others feared to see each other as equals. And in doing so, they changed the galaxy forever.